at this point. I gotta check for myself. So lo siento. All right, cool. So we live on the YouTube. Then I'm not gonna worry about nobody else. I'll share it to my page or whatever I need to do. But yeah, welcome to another Thursday night book club. I didn't realize that we were almost done with Their Eyes Were Watching God. And literally it's like we're on chapter 20, and chapter 20 only like 3-4 pages. It look crazy. The YouTube. I can't help but call it the YouTube. And listen, hey, good evening. Glad you could join. I know I look crazy with the camera in my face like this. But yeah, I do apologize for this lateness. I told you we're gonna have to blame Streamlabs. They be acting up. Acting, 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 acting up. But like I was saying, we were done with pretty much done with Their Eyes Are Watching God. The wild thing is I ain't know. This is still, it's kind of like the Tuesday night. Tuesday night was growing organically. Y'all remember all the issues we had with Tuesday night. I know I'm doing a lot of walking around, but Tuesday night was growing organically. And y'all know all the issues we had with Tuesday night. So Thursday night is doing the same thing. So I wouldn't expect it not to have any sound issues, because we had sound issues or some streaming issues. It was the only one not giving us too many issues at first. And then the other part is my part where I need to grow, because I need to make sure I'm paying attention to where we are chapter wise. But I think we got a book suggestion. I can't remember the name of it. I'm going to have to look at my tablet when we get there. So after I read this one chapter of Their Eyes Are Watching God, I'll move on to the next one. I mean, there's something with Black Boy in it, but I'll tell you in a second. Well, the first week at work has been fantabulous. It's really a wild situation, because trying to get used to all this flexibility and freedom to do whatever I want to do, which is good because it still allows me plenty of time to do stuff that I like to do, like this. And I actually do enjoy Thursday nights, partly because it's simple. It's just like to read, and I love reading. And then the other thing is it takes less work, so it seems, for Thursday night. The Ballad of Black Tom. There it goes. I guess you can guess who suggested it then, since they putting all our business in the street and telling. Hold on, let me get the. I'm glad I actually got some pants on. You work from home. Pants are optional, but I know for myself, I gotta keep a good old do do do, kind of like an office routine. So I won't go become all ultra lazy or. Hey, is that working? We want green to purple. Is that blue? I'm saying, I don't know. Eh, uh, what pink doing? Ah. Hey, we're rolling with green, so I'm gonna stick with it. Purple. Okay, well, you say purple. Oh, what's that? Pink. Well, they say this is pink. Let me see if I can get a little more purple. I got this app that controls my phone, so I mean that one light, and of course apps control my other lights too, because they're smart bulbs. But this is before smart bulbs, and this app is actually trash. but it lets me pick these colors if I want to. So I go through that, bow, 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 bow. But then I also can use this to make my own color if I want to. Hold on, let me see. Then I can set it up to play music and all types of stuff. It just looks wild. All right. I'm going to brighten purple up a little. It's too dark. And brighten them up a little bit. All right. Here we go. We heated blanket tonight too. So yeah. Down to get cozy. Yeah, I'm finally glad we actually getting some winter weather. I know most people don't like winter. I mean, of course, spring and fall are my favorite seasons, but I also love winter because winter is for people who can dress. For real. Summer is for people in shape. You know what I mean? So, and I've always liked fashion. You know, I be dressing. You know, I kept my work shirt on. I love polos. I love everything. I just like fashion, period. I got bow ties. Matter of fact, somebody told me today in my new job, my new position, make sure that I make a name for myself with my ties and bow ties. Because it's funny. Well, I don't know. Side note, I guess since we reading, it's all right if I tell stories too. But true story, when I first started working, it's an early childhood is what most of my background is. When I first started working in Head Start. Oh my God. Never mind. This ain't story time. We're gonna read. Get on. I've been coming on late. I'll tell you stories later. Jesus Christ. Woo. Yeah. Story time is normally for Tuesdays. All right. So like I said, we're gonna breeze through this and then I'm start the next book. So remember T Cake had died. He had mad cow disease, although it wasn't mad cow for real. But I think he got rabies from that dog, and rabies drove him crazy. So she had to shoot him before he shot her. And they just had the funeral, and everybody actually came to the funeral. They was treating her all bad, acting like she killed him on her own, and she invited them all to the funeral, and they came, and they were all the people from the muck, where they were the Everglades, and they came all shamefaced and all that stuff. So here we go. Because they really loved Janie just a little less than they loved Tea Cake, and because they wanted to think well of themselves, they wanted their hostile attitude forgotten. So they blamed it all on Miss Turner's brother and ran him off the muck again. They show him about coming back there posing like he was good looking and putting himself where men's wives could look at him, even if they didn't look like it. Even if they didn't look, it wasn't his fault. What? That doesn't. Even if they didn't look, it wasn't his fault. That's exactly what it says. Okay, I thought I was reading like I don't know how. Even if they didn't look it, it wasn't his fault. He had put himself in the way. No, I ain't mad with Janie. Sop went around explaining Tea Cake had done gone crazy. You can't blame her for protecting herself. She was crazy about him. Look at the way she put him away. Hold on. 1 second. I want to adjust this light. Maybe that'll help a little bit. All right. I feel like that helped a little bit. What you think? Adjusting that lighting. Maybe it's in my mind too. Look at the way she put him away. I ain't got nothing in my heart against her, and I ain't never would have thought a thing. But the very first day that lap leg nigga came back down here making out, he was looking for work. He come asking me about how was Mr. and Mrs. Woods making out. That goes to show you he was up to something. I guess they talking about what's that name, son? Miss Turner's brother. Yeah. So when Stu Beef and Bootney and some of the rest of them got behind him, he come running to me to save him. I told him I don't come to me with your hair blown with your hair blowing back, cause I'm gonna send you, and I sure did. The bitch's baby. That's what they said. The bitch's baby. That was enough. They eased their feelings by beating him and running him off. Anyway, their anger against Janie had lasted 2 whole days, and that was too long to keep remembering anything. Too much of a strain. They had begged Janie to stay with them, and she had stayed a few weeks to keep them from feeling bad, but the muck meant tea cake, and tea cake wasn't there. So it was just a great expanse of black mud. She had given away everything in her little house except a package of garden seed that Tea Cake had bought to plant. The planting never got done because he had been waiting for the right time of the moon when his sickness overtook him. The seeds reminded Janie of Tea Cake more than anything else because he was always planting things. She had noticed them on the kitchen shelf when she came home from the funeral and had put them in her breast pocket. Now that she was home, she meant to plant them for remembrance. You say I might want to change the colors, not on my mind. All right, let me see. Blue. Maybe it ain't that. Maybe it's this. Here we go. We're gonna get this together. I don't know. Purple wasn't. Doop doop doop. Only thing is, if I mess with this light too much, let's see what's cracking. I got options on. Oh my god. Give me a second. We're gonna see what we do about some lighting and we can figure it out. Once I get this set up, then we should be good. Lighting for this is the interesting thing. I've been wanting it to look mood like. But sometimes it just winds up being a little too. See, look, now I look like a ninja. Ah. Yeah, okay, let's see. Now I got a bunch of lights going on in here. Whoa, you see? That is, what's his name? So I can keep a white light on and then you still see me. What's this thing? Yeah. Let's see what else we got going on. Then I got soft light. Soft light make me look the same. See, I'm just chocolatey, girl. I don't know what else to do. And I can turn it up bright. But then that defeats the sassy. And then it's that rainbow ass light, which is bright because it's doing every color. Let me see. But actually the rainbow light ain't even that bad. Let me see what else we got going. This is a different rainbow light. It might be this. Oh. I ain't trying to have no seizure or give nobody a seizure either. Let's see what's cracking. This is green changing to blue. Oh, no, yeah, that make things too dark. Look like red ain't that bad. This is what I had it on. And this is blue. Blue is terrible. I look like Win Belly. In come the boom. In come the boom. In come the boom. All I need is Nas, DMX, you know what I mean? And, okay, green ain't that bad. Yellow made me look a little. I don't know what that is, but it ain't that bad. What you think? This? It's either this or green look like. I don't know. This is some version of whatever that last one was. We'll go back to purple. Yeah. Yellow. I'll be picking this based on how it make my spirit feel when I click on it. Was yes, green? Oh, I know not that. Not that either. It's changing. We don't want the changing colors. Blue, no. Green, what you think? Green, or yellow? Yellow. Yellow don't look that bad. This look good too. I think I'm gonna leave this. It made me look a little sexy, and it really don't. Okay, so not this one. All right, so we can go back to this is a version of blue. And the last one was almost like light. All right. That's the bad thing. I can't go backwards on this, so I gotta go all the way through. Okay, not green, not red, not purple. Whatever this blue is. This yellow? Let me pause till your comments show up, cause since you invested and you actually comment, is it this yellow? Nope. See or no? These lies be wild. Yeah, well, I'm glad at least we finishing up a book. Okay, well, I'll leave it on yellow. Maybe something with you. Yeah, maybe yellow speaking to your spirit right now, but it is a better light and it shows me better. So I know to stick between this green and that blue next time. And let's get this light to purple like we wanted it. Boop, 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 boop. Let's see. You want some dark purple? Or some light purple? I'll get some dark purple. Purple. All right. Now that is settled, I can get back under my heated blanket and we can keep the party going. Only thing is, I gotta figure out something because I'm gonna get light boxes to set up for setups. Because I hate always seeing the ring light in my glasses. And I want to get some new contacts. I think my last eye doctor wasn't that good because my prescription doesn't get bad, doesn't change that often. But 2 times I went to him, I was going blind according to him. And the last pair of glasses and stuff, like he got my eyes are 2 different things, and they literally have been the same for the last 15 goddamn years. I go to him, we're like, oh no. So now he got me buying 2 packs of contacts, and I don't like that. And then one of them actually don't work as good as the other one. I'm like, so I know he tripping. So gonna find me a new eye doctor too. But anyway, they begged Jen. Okay, so she meant to plant them for remembrance. Janie stirred her strong feet in a pan of water. The tiredness was gone. She had dried them off on the towel. Now that's how everything was, Phoebe, just like I told you. So I'm back home again and I'm satisfied to be here. I done what? I done been to the horizon and back, and now I can set my head in my house and live by comparisons. This house ain't so absent of things like it used to be before TK come along. It's full of thoughts, especially that bedroom. I know all them sitters. Turn a little. All right. I know all them sitters and talkers gonna worry their guts into fiddle strings till they find out what we've been talking about. That's all right, Phoebe. Tell them they gonna make my rations because my love didn't work like they love. If they ever had any, then you must tell them that love ain't something like a grindstone that's the same thing everywhere and do the same thing to everything it touch. Love is like the sea. It's a moving thing, but still and all, it takes its shape from the shores it meets and is different with every shore. Um, yeah, that's in theory, but I think love is all that. So love is her own thing. And I think that's where we fail sometimes because we think the way we love or think how our ideas of love is supposed to be, but love is its own, it's its own beast. So it does all the things you think it wouldn't do, and it does all the things you think it would do, and more. So yeah, it definitely is. Even though it's slavery talk, that's why I still love the book. You know what I mean? Because she definitely, it's a great love story. So, except for all that beating on your wife stuff, that was crazy. Lord, Phoebe breathed out heavily. I done grown 10 feet high from just listening to you, Janie. I ain't satisfied with myself no more. I mean to make Sam take me fishing with him after this. Nobody better not criticize you in my hearing. Now, Phoebe, don't feel too mean with the rest of them cause they parched up from not knowing things. Them meat skins. Listen, that's the other thing I do like about the writing. She has interesting way to describe people. Them meat skins is got a rattlesnake to make out of they days alive. Let them consolate themselves with talk. Okay. Of course, talking don't amount to a hill of beans when you can't do nothing else. And listening, the moon shine down your throat. Oh no, it's great. I skipped a line. And listening to that kind of talk is just like opening your mouth and letting the moon shine down your throat. It's a known fact, Phoebe. You got to go there to know there. I know that's right. Your papa and your mama and nobody else can tell you and show you that's the truth now. Two things everybody got to do for themselves. They got to go to God and they got to find out about living for themselves. Hey, now, yeah. Because I just talked about that's one of the things that makes me the happiest right now. Because the only thing I got to worry about is myself. And not to say that that's the only worry I have, but I just don't have the burdens. Yeah. And, you know, definitely believe in spirituality. There was a finished silence after all of that. So for the first time, they could hear the wind picking at the pine trees. It made Phoebe think of Sam waiting for her and getting fretful. It made Janie think about that room upstairs, her bedroom. Phoebe hugged Janie real hard and cut the darkness in flight. Soon everything around downstairs was shut and fastened. Janie mounted the stairs with her lamp. The light in her hand was like a spark of sun stuff washing her face in fire. Her shadow behind fell black and headlong down the stairs. Now in her room, the place tasted fresh again. The wind through the open windows had broomed out all the fetid feelings of absence and nothingness. She closed in and sat down, combing road dust out her hair, thinking. The day of the gun and the bloody body and the courthouse came and commenced to sing sob and sigh out of every corner of the room, out of each and every chair and thing, commenced to sing, commenced to sob and sigh, singing and sobbing. Then tea cake came, prancing around her where she was, and the song of sigh flew out the window and lit on in the top of the pine trees. Tea cake with the sun for a shawl. Of course he wasn't dead. He could never be dead until she herself had finished feeling and thinking. The kiss of his memory made pictures of love and light against the wall. Here was peace. She pulled in her horizon like a great fish net, pulled it from around the waist of the world, and draped it over her shoulder. So much life in its meshes. She called her soul to come and see. Yeah, that was tough. I couldn't imagine going through that. Now it's an afterword by Lou Gossett Jr. Is this the one by Lou Gossett Jr.? Yeah, I'm good. We not reading afterwords and forewords, and I just like to get to the guts. So yeah, that was a great book. I'm glad we could enjoy one of my favorite books in all the land. Okay, let me get out of this. Let me see. I ain't realizing that. So, The Ballad of Black Tom. Is that the next one? Boo-doo-boo, boo-doo-boo. Let's say by Lavelle Victor. So, I don't know what The Ballad of Black Tom is about. So, let's see if they have something to tell me what it's about. Okay. Well, maybe this will be good because it's uh okay about the author. Let's find out. The author, I don't know much about Victor Lavelle, so I don't know, but I do like the title of his first book. It seems like Victor Lavelle is the author of 4 books. Slapboxing with Jesus sounds interesting. Because I'd like to slap box. I used to like slap boxing a little bit till you slap me in my face, then I really want to fight. The Static, Big Machine, and The Devil in Silver. He has been a recipient of numerous awards, including Shirley Jackson's Award and the American Book Award. He first learned of the supreme alphabet at the age of 18. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I have never, listen, I have, okay, slap boxing with Jesus is a good one. Now, listen to me when I have never, ever, 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 ever in my life seen an author's description and they say he first learned of the supreme alphabet at age 18. And you know what's wild about that? Oh, he the dude that wrote Changeling. Okay, so Changeling was interesting. Okay, so he's a good author. But do you know that means I'm about to give you some information about him that you didn't know? That means a 5%er. Because the supreme alphabet is for 5%. It's the nation of gods and earth. And it's wild because he said he learned supreme alphabet at 18 and he still uses it today. 2 things I still use almost every day that I learned from the nation of gods and earth is supreme alphabet and supreme mathematics. So I use the meaning of numbers and the meanings of letters every single day. So if I wake up at 3 o'clock, I use it in healing and all that because it is a version of numerology, which is wild. So that's funny. Arthur, this dude, that's funny. Oh my God. So that's why he using, I see the last page is zigzag zig. Okay, good. This is going to be a fairly short book. What's Did you ask me what's today's mathematics? You don't even know if I told you. Well, today is what, 21st? So today would be wisdom knowledge. And that would be wisdom to let you know wisdom is the manifestation of your knowledge through your ways and actions. And through doing that is how you gain understanding. And one is the knowledge. Now, you know what I mean? That's making things known to you. Now, when you put the knowledge and the wisdom together, 2 plus 1, you get 3, which is understanding. And understanding comes from wisdom. That is the 1, 2, 3. So it's ironic. So that's today's mathematics. And it's funny because I mean, man, when I was like 19, I couldn't even walk nowhere without somebody being like, "What's today's mathematics?" It's so funny because in my I can't find that yearbook, but in you could you oh yeah, I feel you. I skipping over all that and get straight to the chapters. Um, when I was in college, I actually started a group that was the Nation of Gods and Earth. All right, so we've seen the dedication. It was dedicated to H.P. Lovecraft with all my conflicted feelings. Part one, Tommy Tester. People who move to New York always make the same mistake. They can't see the place. This is true of Manhattan, but even the outer boroughs too, be it Flushing Meadows in Queens or Red Hook in Brooklyn. Red Hook is one of the wildest movies I've ever watched by Spike Lee. When that pastor came, if you've never seen it, it has an interesting plot twist. They come looking for magic, whether evil or good, and nothing will convince them that it isn't here. This wasn't all bad, though. Some New Yorkers had learned how to make a living from this error in thinking. Charles Thomas Tester, for one. Charles Thomas Tester, I know that's right. The morning of the most important began with a trip from Charles' apartments in Harlem. He'd been hired to make a delivery to a house out in Queens. He shared the crib in Harlem with his ailing father, Otis, a man who had been dying ever since his wife of 22 years expired. They'd had one child, Charles Thomas, and even though he was 20 and exactly the age for independence, he played the role of dutiful son. Charles worked to support his dying dad. He hustled to provide food and shelter and a little extra to lay on a number from time to time. God knows he didn't make any more than that. A little after 8 a.m., he left the apartment in his gray flannel suit. The slacks were cuffed but scuffed, and the sleeves conspicuously short. Fine fabric but frayed. This gave Charles a certain look, like a gentleman without a gentleman's bank account. I know that's right. He picked the brown leather brogues with nickel toes, with nick toes. I know that's right. Then the seal brown trooper hat instead of the fedora. The trooper's hat brim showed his age and wear, and this was good for his hustle too. Last, he took a guitar case, essential to complete the look. He left the guitar itself at home with his bedridden father. Inside, he carried only a yellow book, not much larger than a pack of cards. That's wild. As Charles Thomas Tester left the apartment on West 144th Street, he heard his father plucking at the strings in the back room. The old man could spend half a day playing that instrument and singing along to the radio at his bedside. Charles expected to be back home before midday, his guitar case empty and his wallet full. "Who's that writing?" his father sang, voice hoarse, but more lovely for it. "I said, who's that writing?" Before leaving, Charles sang back the last line of the chorus. John the Revelator. He was impressed by his voice, not tuneful at all, at least when compared to his dad. In the apartment, Charles Thomas Tester went by Charles, but on the street, everybody knew him as Tommy. Tommy Tester, always carrying a guitar case. This wasn't because he aspired to be a musician. In fact, he could barely remember a handful of songs, and his singing voice might be described kinda as wobbly. His father, who had made a living as a bricklayer, and his mother, who had spent her life working as a domestic, had loved music. Dad played guitar, and mother could really stroll on a piano. It was only natural that Tommy Tester ended up drawn to performing, the only tragedy being that he lacked talent. He thought of himself as an entertainer. There were others who have called him a scammer, a swindler, a con, but he never thought of himself this way. No good charlatan ever did. I know that's right. No charlatan ever think of themselves that way. They think it was his best. In the clothes he'd picked, he sure looked the part of a dazzling down and out musician. He was a man who drew notice and enjoyed it. He walked to the train station as if he were on his way to play a rent party. Jesus Christ, a rent party. What year is this? Oh God, excuse me. What looked like he was on his way to play a rent party alongside Willie the Lion Smith. And Tommy had played with Willie's band once. After a single song, Willie threw Tommy out. And yet, Tommy toted that guitar case like a businessman proudly carrying that briefcase off to work. The streets of Harlem had gone haywire in 1924, with blacks arriving from the South and the West Indies. A crowded part of the city found itself with more folks to accommodate. Tommy Tester enjoyed all this just fine. Walking through Harlem, first thing in the morning was like being a single drop of blood inside an amorous body that was waking up. Brick and mortar, elevated train tracks, and miles of underground pipe. This city lived. Day and night it thrived. New York is always something going on. Tommy took up more room than most because of the guitar case. At 143rd Street entrance, he had to lift the case over his head while climbing the stairs to the elevated track. The little book inside thumped, but didn't weigh much. He rode all the way down to 57th Street and there transferred for the Roosevelt Avenue Corona line of the BMT. It was his second time going out to Queens, the first being when he taken a special job that would be completed today. The farther Tommy Tester rode into Queens, the more conspicuous he had became. Far fewer Negroes lived in Flushing than in Harlem. Tommy bumped his hat slightly lower on his head. The conductor entered the car twice, and both times he stopped to make conversation with Tommy. Once to ask if he was a musician, knocking the guitar case as if it were his own. And the second time is to ask Tommy had he missed his stop. The other passengers feigned disinterest, even as Tommy saw them listening for his replies. Tommy, that is New York. They be pretending like they not paying attention, but they really do. New York is impolite to let people know that you listening. In the South, they don't care. They listening. So, oh my God, hold on. The other passengers feigned this interest even as Tommy saw them listening for his replies. Tommy kept the answers simple. Yes, sir, I play guitar. And no, sir, got a couple more stops still. Becoming unremarkable, invisible, compliant. These were useful tricks for a black man in an all-white neighborhood. Survival techniques. I know that's right. At the last stop, Main Street, Tommy Tester got off with all the others, Irish and German immigrants mostly, and made his way down to street level. A long walk from here. The whole way, Tommy marveled at the broad streets and the garden apartments, though his borough had grown, modernized greatly since his former days as Dutch and British farmland. To a boy like Tommy, raised in Harlem, all this appeared rustic and bewilderingly open. The open arms of the natural world worried him as much as white people, both so alien to him. When he passed whites on the street, he kept his gaze and his shoulders soft. Men from Harlem were known for their strut, a lion stride, but out here, he hid it away. He was surveyed but never stopped. His foot shuffling disguise held up fine. So he thought that rusted suit and all that gave him a foot shuffling disguise. I know that's right. And finally, amid the blocks and blocks of newly built garden apartment, Tommy Tester found his destination. A private home, small and nearly lost in a copse of trees. The rest of the block taken up by a mortuary. The private place grew like a tumor on the house of the dead. Tommy Tester turned up the walkway and didn't even have to knock. Before he climbed 3 steps, the front door cracked open. A tall, gaunt woman stood in the doorway, half in the shadows. Ma'at. What? That was the name he had for her. The only one she answered to. She hired him like this. On this doorstep, through a half open door, word had traveled to Harlem that she needed help, and he was the type of man who could acquire what she needed. All right. Summoned to her door and given a job without being invited in. The same would happen now. He understood, or could at least guess at the reasons. What would the neighbors say if this woman had Negroes coming freely into her home? Tommy undid the latch of the guitar case and held it open. Ma'at leaned forward so her head peeked out into the daylight. Inside lay the book, no larger than the palm of Tommy's hand. Its front and back covers were sallow yellow. 3 words had been etched on both sides. Zig, zag, zig. What? That in supreme alphabet, the letter Z is zig, zag, zig. So that's why I used to hear RZA the Wu-Tang, because his 5% name was Zig, Zag, Zig, Allah, which is interesting. Tommy didn't know what the word. What? This is a wild story. I'm sorry. I'm trying to wrap my mind around this. While he out in Canassa and this lady got zigzag zig and Tommy don't know what it is. What the words meant, nor did he care to know. He hadn't read this book, never even touched it with his bare hands. He'd been hired to transport the little yellow book, and that was all he'd done. He'd been the right man for the task, in part because he knew he shouldn't do any more than that. A good hustler isn't curious. A good hustler only wants his pay. I know that's right. You don't start asking a lot of questions. Ma'at looked from the book there in the case and back to him. She seemed slightly disappointed. You weren't tempted to look inside? She asked. I charge more for that, Tommy said. She didn't find him funny. She sniffled once, that's all. Then she reached into the guitar case, slipped the book out. She moved so quickly that the book hardly had a chance to catch even a single ray of sunlight. But still, as the book was pulled into the darkness of Ma'at's home, a faint trail of smoke appeared in the air. Even glancing contact with the daylight, she had set the book on fire. Jesus Christ. She slapped at the cover once, stuffing out the spark. Where did you find it? She asked. There's a place in Harlem. Tommy said, his voice hushed. It's called Victoria Society. Even the hardest gangsters in Harlem are afraid to go there. It's where people like me trade in books like yours, and worse. Here he stopped. Mystery lingered in the air like a scent, like the scent of the scorched book. Ma'at actually leaned forward as if he'd landed a hook into her lip, but Tommy said no more. The Victoria Society, she whispered. How much would you charge to take me in? Tommy scanned the old woman's face. How much might she pay? Okay. He wondered at the sun, but still he shook his head. I'd feel terrible if you got hurt there. I'm sorry. Maya watched Tommy Chester, calculating how bad a place the Victoria Society could be. After all, a person who trafficked in books, like the little yellow one in her hand, was hardly the frail kind. Ma'at reached out and tapped the mailbox, affixed to the outside wall with one finger. Tommy opened it to find his pay, $200. He counted the cash right there in front of her. Enough for 6 months' rent and utility, food and all. You shouldn't be in this neighborhood when the sun goes down, Maya said. She didn't sound concerned for him. I'll be back in Harlem before lunchtime. I wouldn't suggest you visit there day or night. I know that's right. He tipped his cap, snapped the empty guitar case shut, turned away from Maya's door. On the way back to the train, Tommy Testa decided to find his friend Buckeye. Buckeye worked for Madame St. Clair, the numbers queen of Harlem. Tommy should pay Ma'at's address. What? Tommy should pay Ma'at's address tonight. If his numbers came up, he'd have enough to buy himself a better guitar case. maybe even his own guitar. Yeah, well, I don't get this guitar thing, but he love it, so I love it too. Chapter two, since there's a little more time, and chapter one was a mess. Let me see. Two, three. Yeah, we can knock out chapter two too. Yeah, not chapter two. Chapter one was a mess, but yeah, I was watching. God was only like 3 pages, so that's why. That's a fine get fiddle. Tommy Testa didn't even have to look up to know he'd found a new mark. He simply had to see the quality of the man's shoes, the bottom end of a fine cane. He plucked at his guitar, still getting used to the feel of the new instrument. Wait a minute. Okay, cool. Still getting used to the new instrument, and it hummed instead of sang because he sounded more like a talented musician when he didn't open his mouth. The trip out to Queens last month had inspired Tommy Testa to travel more. The streets of Harlem could get pretty crowded with singers and guitar players, men on brass instruments, and every one of them put his little operation to shame. Where Tommy had 3 songs in his catalog, each of those men had 30, 300, that 30, 300. But on the way home from my aunt's place, he realized he hadn't passed a single strummer along the way. The singer on the street might have been more common in Harlem and down in Five Points or more modern parts of Brooklyn. But so much of this city remained essentially a bit of jumped up countryside. None of the other Harlem players would take a train out to Queens or rural Brooklyn for the chance of getting money from these famously thrifty immigrants homesteaded in those parts. But a man like Tommy Testa, who only put on a show of making music, certainly might. Those out of barrel bohunks and patties probably don't know a damn thing about serious jazz. So Tommy's knockoff version might still stand out. On returning from my ex place, he talked. Okay, after returning from my ex place, he talked all this through with his father, Otis Tester. Yet one more time, offered to get him work as a bricklayer, join the profession. A kind gesture a loving father would attempt, but not one that worked on his son. Tommy Tester would never say it out loud. He'd hurt the old man so much, but work construction had given his father gnarled hands and a stooped back, nothing more. I know that's right. Worked hard as hell. That's my mama tell you, hard work ain't nothing. It don't do nothing for you. Smart work does. You just wear your body out doing hard work. So I feel you. I know that's right. Otis Tester had earned a Negro's wage, not a white man's, as was common in 1924, and even that money was withheld if the foreman sometimes wanted a bit more in his pocket. What is a Negro going to do? Complain to whom? There was a union, but Negroes wasn't allowed to join. Less money and erratic pay were the job, just as surely as mixing the mortar when laborers didn't show up to do it. The companies that hired Otis Tester, that always assured him that he was one of them, had filled his job the same day his body finally broke down. Otis, a proud man, had tried to instill a sense of duty in his only child, as had Tommy's mother. But the lessons Tommy Tester learned instead was that you better have a way to make your own money, because this world wasn't trying to make a Negro rich. As long as Tommy paid their rent and bought some food home, how could his father complain? When he played Ma At's number, it hit as he dreamed it would, and he bought a fine guitar case. Now it was common for Tommy and Otis to spend their evenings playing harmonies well into the night. Tommy had even become moderately better with a tune. Tommy had decided against a return to Flushing, Queens, though a hustler's premonition told him he didn't want to run into Mott again. I know that's right. After all, the book he had given her had been missing one page, hadn't it? The very last page. Tommy Tester had done this with purpose. It rendered the tome useless, harmless. He had done this because he knew exactly what he'd been hired to deliver, the supreme alphabet. He didn't have to read through it to be aware of his power. This is, man, Ali would love this. Tommy doubted very much the old woman wanted a little yellow book for casual reading. The Supreme Alphabet definitely ain't casual reading. He hadn't touched the book with his bare hands and hadn't read a single word inside, but there were still ways to get that last sheet of parchment free safely. In fact, that page remained in Tommy's apartment, folded into a square, slipped right into the body of an old guitar he had always left with his father. Tommy had been warned not to read the pages, and he kept to that rule. His father had been the one to tear out the last sheet, and his father could not read. His illiteracy served as a safeguard. This is how you hustlers. This is how you hustle the arcane. Skirt the rules, but don't break them. I know that's right. That's why I used to tell everybody all the time. You got to know the rules before you can bend them. Today, Tommy Tester had come to the Reformed Church in Flatbush, Brooklyn, as far home as Flushing, and lacking an angry sorceress. He wore the same outfit as when he went to visit Ma. His trooper hat upside down at his feet. What? He'd set himself. Oh, okay. He's sitting out there trying to play like he playing the guitar. So he put his hat down to catch the money. That didn't make sense, but now it does. Okay. Trooper hat at his feet. He set himself up in front of the church's iron rail graveyard. A bit of the theater in his choice, but the right kind of person would be drawn to this picture. The black jazz man in his frayed dignity singing softly at the burying ground. Tommy Tester knew 2 jazz songs and 1 bit of blues. He played the blues tune for 2 hours straight because it sounded more somber. He didn't bother with any words any longer, only the chords and hummed accompaniment. And then the old man with the fine shoes and the cane appeared. He listened quietly for a time before he spoke. "That's a fine git fiddle," the man finally said. And it was the term "git fiddle" that assured Tommy his hustle had worked. As simple as that, the old man wanted Tommy to know that he could speak the language. Tommy played a few more chords and ended with without flourishing. Finally, he looked up to find the older man flushed, grinning. The man was round and short. His hair blew out wildly like a dandelion's soft white snowball. His beard was coming in bristly and gray like mine. He didn't look like a wealthy man, but it was all the well off who could afford such a disguise. I know that's right. You had to be rich to risk looking so broke. The shoes verified the man's wealth, though, and his cane with the handle shaped like an animal head, cast in what looked like pure gold. "My name is Robert Sidham," the man said, then waited as if the name alone should make Tommy testify. "I'm having a party at my home. Will you play for my guests? Such dusky tunes will suit the mood." "You want me to sing?" Tommy asked. "You want to pay me to sing?" "Come to my home in 3 nights." Robert Sundin pointed towards Martigny Street. The old man lived there in a mansion hidden within the disorder of the trees. Excuse me. He promised Tommy $500 for the job. Otis Tester had never made more than 900 in a year. Saddam took out his billfold and handed Tommy $100 in all tens. "A retainer," Saddam said. "Oh, shoot." Tommy set that guitar flat in his case and accepted the bills, turning them over. 1923 bills. Andrew Jackson appeared on the front. The image of the old hickory didn't look directly at Tommy, but glanced aside as if catching sight of something just over Tommy's right shoulder. "When you arrive at the house, you must say one word, and only this word to gain entrance." Tommy stopped counting the money, folded it over twice, and slipped it into the inner pocket of his jacket. "I can't promise you what will happen if you forget it," Saddam said, then paused to watch Tommy assessing him. "Ashmodai. Ashmodai? Ashmodai. Ashmodai. That is the word. Let me hear you say it. Ashmodai, Tommy repeated. Robert Saddam tapped the cane on the pavement twice and walked away. Tommy watched him go for 3 blocks before he picked up his hat and put it in. He clicked the guitar case shut, but before Tommy Tester took even one step toward the train station, he got gripped hard on the back of the neck. 2 white men appeared. One was tall and thin, the other tall and wide. Together, they resembled the number 10. That was funny. The wide one kept his hand on Tommy's neck. He knew this one was a cop, or had been one. Up in Harlem, they called this grip John's handshake. The thin, the thin one stayed 2 paces back. The surprise of it all caused Tommy to forget the pose of difference he normally adopt when cops stopped him. Instead, he acted like himself, his father's son, a kid from Harlem, a proud man who didn't take kindly to being given shit. You're coming on a little strong, he told the wide one. And you're a little far from home, the wide one replied. You don't know where I live, Tommy snapped back. The wide one reached into Tommy's coat and removed the $10 bills. We saw you take these from that old man, he began. The old man is part of an ongoing investigation, so this is evidence. He slipped the bills into his sacks and watched Tommy to gauge his reaction. Police business, Tommy said coolly, and stopped thinking that the money had ever been his. The wide one pointed out the thin one. He's police. I'm private. Tommy looked at the private detective to the cop. Tall and thin, lantern jaw, his eyes dispassionate and surveying. Malone, he finally offered, and this is the wide one cut him off. He doesn't need to know my name. He doesn't need to know yours either. Malone looked exasperated. This strong arm routine didn't seem like his style. Tommy Tester read both the men quickly. The private detective had been bearing of a brute, while the other one, Malone, appeared too sensitive for a cop's job. Tommy considered that he'd stayed a few paces back to keep away from the private dick, not Tommy. What's your business with Mr. Saddam? The private detective asked. He pulled Tommy's hat off and looked inside. There might be more money. He liked music, Tommy said. Then calm enough now to remember the situation, he added another word quickly. Sir, I heard your voice. The private detective said nobody could enjoy that. Tommy Chester would have liked to argue the point, but even a corrupt, violent brute could be right sometimes. I know that's right. Well, let's say even a broken clock right twice a day. That my mama's favorite saying. Even the sun shine on the dog's ass sometimes. I still don't know what it means, but it sounds like that's what it means. Okay. Robert Saddam wasn't paying $500 for Tommy's voice. For what then? Now me and Detective Malone are going to keep strolling with Mr. Saddam, keeping them safe. And you're going to go back home, isn't that right? Where's home? Harlem, Tommy offered. Sir. Of course it is, Malone said quietly. Home to Harlem then, the private detective added. He set the hat back on Tommy's head and gave Malone a quick, derisive glance. He turned in the direction where the old man had gone, and only then did Malone step any closer to Tommy. Standing this near, Tommy could sense a kind of sadness in the gaunt officer. His eyes suggested a man disappointed with the world. Tommy waited before reaching down for his guitar case. No sudden moves, no sudden moves in front of even a sullen cop. Just because Malone wasn't as rough as the private detective didn't mean he was gentle. Valid. Why did he give you that money? Malone asked. Why really? He asked, but seemed to doubt an honest answer would come. Instead, there was a set to his lips, a narrowness in his gaze that suggested that he was probing for an answer to some other question. I know that's right. Tommy worried he'd mentioned the performance at Saddam's home in 3 nights. If they weren't happy about Tommy talking with Saddam on the street, How would they act upon learning he planned to visit the old man's home? Tommy lost $100 to the private detective, but he was damned he was going to give up the promise of $400 more. He decided to play a role that always worked on whites, a clueless Negro. I can't say, sir. Tommy began. Now he started talking that slave talk. I was just a simple guitar man. Malone. He's stupid. Malone came close to smiling for the first time. You're not simple, he said. Tommy watched Malone walk off to catch up with the private detective. He looked over his shoulder, and you're right. Stay out of Queens, Malone said. That old woman isn't happy with what you said, with what you did to her book. I know that's right. Malone walked off, and Tommy Tester remained there, feeling exposed, seen in the way he'd never experienced. You're a cop, Tommy called. Can't you protect me? Malone looked back once more. Guns and badges don't scare everyone. And that's a fact. I know for sure. Yeah. All right. Well, that's chapter 3. The book's on the 96 pages, so we probably gonna breeze through this one. A couple of chapters, so it's 8:10. We went over a little bit, but it was a good read. So far, so good. And I guess I have to share this on my Facebook page too. So Tuesday is the day after Christmas. Nah, I think I might cancel that show. We'll see. But Thursday book club, I will be ready for some Thursday book club. So I will see you next Thursday, and I'm actually interested I'm interested to see how they wrote in. Oh my God, how he turned supreme alphabet to supreme mathematics into woo, some mysticism and magical. Jesus Christ. It's gonna be fun. Um, Thanks for joining us. We got better lighting. Well, at least you can see me a little bit better, maybe. Man, I'm hungry and I'm tired. And thank God tomorrow's Friday. I see you people next week. Boop, boop, ba-doop. Thanks again.